Welcome, I'm Michael Bickert. Thanks for joining me today as we explore concepts with the objective of improving your management skills and growing your business. Grab a notepad and a pen right now because I want you to commit to yourself that you will jot down an action item, something that you will implement in your business today. And today I plan to assign you with a little bit of homework. Let's get started. Let me ask you this to begin. What pilot project do you have going on in your business right now that you're most excited about? Or what beta testing are you doing on a particular system that you've set up? If you're giving me a blank stare right now, and I can see some of you are, and the answer is none, I don't have any pilot projects going on right now, we're going to change that today. You should at all times have some sort of pilot project going on. There's a lot of power and liberation for you as the manager, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner in launching a pilot project. And here's why. Inherent in pilot projects is an understanding that it's not perfected yet. We're testing something. We're going to see how it works. There's an implicit understanding that we need to innovate this over time. We need to have some trial and error. And there's, like I say, a lot of power and liberation in entering into something without being worried that everything is perfected. Now, I want you to still plan things out, and we'll talk a little bit more about, how do we get started. But the power of the pilot project and the beta test is that you really aren't encumbered by other fears that you may have. I think so many of your best ideas, and I want you right now to think about what ideas you have that you haven't implemented. I think so many of us are handcuffed, encumbered, and held back from launching an idea because we think, well, it's not perfect. I don't know. It's risky. I'm not sure if this is going to work or not. And we have this flawed logic, this false belief that unless something is perfect, unless something is assuredly going to work, we shouldn't launch it. It's too risky. And that risk-averse nature that some of you have is preventing you from growing your business and innovating in very meaningful ways. And yet, if you just enter that term pilot project into your vernacular, if you culturally accept as an organization, no, we are launching things from time to time that are in pilot mode, they're in beta mode. And so you don't need me to define these terms for you because you have Google. But what I'm trying to get you to do is introduce into your psyche, into your culture of your organization, the concept that we try things before they're perfect. We understand that there's always going to be a degree to which we can improve things. And so in that regard, I suppose you could theoretically argue that any project you have going on right now is in a pilot phase, in that you know that you're going to end that eventually with the next iteration of it while you improve it. Yeah, that may be the case, but I want you to start using these terms. We're going to pilot a project. When you talk to your team and you discuss things with other stakeholders, have an idea in your mind that you're going to pilot something, that you understand as a group, this may or may not work. But you're going into it with a calculated risk. You're going into it, you're not going to be irresponsible and put so much of your resources into the project because it's only a pilot project. You're not going to put so many things in that you can have a catastrophic failure. Instead, you're going to trial it out on a smaller scale. So with maybe a portion of your customer base or a part of your staff. This will work with just about anything you're talking about. So you might have some sort of technological tool that you're using and you want to beta test it before you roll it out all the way with all of your customers. This works if you're talking about a human resource type project. Maybe you're thinking of changing a benefits program in your company. Maybe you're looking at a pay plan change. This can work with anything. Any kind of idea, you should consider going into it with, of course, the right amount of planning and everything, but that you have this term that you're using. This is a pilot project. We're going to use this at a smaller scale, and we're going to refine using what we learn and feedback from those that are participating in this. The idea is that you're going to perfect your strategies and your processes and systems through making mistakes while the stakes are lower. So you're not putting everything on the line here. And that's the idea behind a pilot project. You go into it with the idea that the educational component of the pilot is one of the primary benefits. Now, of course, you have an objective, whether, you take any of those examples I gave before. If you are trying to test out a new benefits package or a new pay plan, if you're trying to test out a new marketing strategy or payment mechanism for your customers, whatever it is, you have an objective you're trying to accomplish, which is typically about growing your business, about increasing revenues, increasing profit, and that kind of thing. But you're going to go into this with this secondary benefit of education. And I want you to think of that when you talk about implementing ideas. By putting this into a pilot project, you're going to say, well, actually, the primary goal is to educate ourselves. So I think back to one of my key managers in the past kept saying to me about something that we were implementing, this new strategy we were implementing. We were making lots of changes, and he would always reference what was happening with respect to gross profit and revenues and things like that. And he might say, well, Michael, the primary goal here is to earn more money. And I would say, actually, right now, because we're in pilot mode, that's not our primary motive. Ultimately, once we launch this completely and we roll this out completely, once we think we have, forgive the expression, perfected it, because I use that term loosely, you never perfect anything. But once we are very satisfied with this and we scale it up and roll it out with everybody, then yes, you're right, we're looking for revenues and primarily profit. But right now, our primary objective is educational. So you go into the pilot project, you go into the beta test, you're sort of building a prototype of a system, and you go into it with the idea that what can we learn? The primary takeaway will be intelligence, knowledge, and the degree to which you do that and your competition does not will affect how much better you can innovate your processes and surpass the competition. So as you launch these ideas, you're going into them with a very deliberate and purposeful idea that the educational component is paramount. And so what you need to do is sort of quantify that. And when you consider what resources you're putting into your pilot project, whatever it is, you want to make sure that even if it fails, even if you decide this is not working, we're going to kill the whole project, that the education benefit that that the project yielded was worth all the resources, that you actually had a return on your investment that is really good. Now, we talk about getting a first-class education from failure, and anytime you have failed at doing something, that education you come away with, as long as you don't make the same mistakes time and again, you are probably saving lots of money down the road. And so that's the same idea when you're considering a pilot project. So let's just revisit some of the discussion about, well, how do we launch any project? Of course, what you want to do is assemble this various stakeholders, and do not assume that you should only have your top level management. That's a critical error that so many organizations make. Very small organizations, sometimes the boss is coming up with the idea all by himself, and then he goes and tells his team, this is what we're going to do. That's a mistake. Remember, what you have to do is assemble your team, and you want to have representatives from the various levels within your organization and the various stakeholders at all levels and who are going to be affected by this. Because you want input to get the best ideas from everyone. You want to decentralize idea generation, and certainly you want to decentralize implementation. It's going to be a group effort to make anything work. And so you get together and you begin with the end in mind. You say, well, here is the objective. What we want to do, here's the problem we're trying to solve, here's the objective we have. Whatever it may be, greater customer satisfaction, whatever it is, you define that for everybody, and then you deliberate and discuss and communicate with one another. What are some ideas? Okay, so here's what we'd like to do. We're going to put the following processes in place, and we're going to make the following changes, but we're going to do it as a pilot project, and we're only going to implement this with this section of our business, or with this department, or with these people, with these few people here. And it's kind of like that notion of A/B testing. This is just experimenting. What you're doing is you have your control, which is the rest of the group is going out and doing business as usual. And then your pilot project group, those participants are your variable group. That's your experimental group. And everyone's going to get together later and discuss the results. So you collaborate as a team to make these plans for what you're going to do for your pilot project. And what's so great about it, I just want to keep emphasizing this point, is that everybody understands that we're going into it knowing this might not work. And that's what's liberating about it, is that you do not have the pressure. Nobody in the project who's participating feels like all the pressure is on to make this work. And you might think that's counterintuitive because you want to have everybody wanting to make it work. But I'm not saying that the motivation for people to make it work is diminished, but the pressure of having to make it work. There's something about freeing up the mind, like I keep using the term liberation of the mind here, so that the pressure is off and they will do their best to give you feedback, and you have this communication with everybody that what we really want to take away from this is intelligence, knowledge, specific knowledge that we'll gain from doing this trial that other people don't have. Think about the entire scientific method throughout the centuries. It's because some people decided, hey, we want to test this. We don't know what will happen. We're going into it and we're going to record our observations. And so inherent in that understanding is that you need to reconvene as a group and discuss what is happening. It also means you have to measure to see if things are working. I don't want to spend a long time today talking about project management and everything. We've discussed that before. Today I wanted you to really just consider the mental notion of, are you running pilot projects? And I want you, as your homework today, to consider what are some ideas, or what is the best idea that you have right now that you have not implemented for fear of having not worked it out completely, have not perfected it. And then write that down, and then assemble those stakeholders and make a commitment that you are going to launch a pilot project. And then define the time that you're going to run this for. It might be, okay, for all of next year, for the next fiscal year, for the next calendar year, or it might be for a quarter. It depends on how big the idea is and how much change, and it really depends on how much data you're going to need, how much feedback you're going to need to know whether it's working or not. But this is really imperative, and I want you, the next time someone says to you, what pilot project are you running right now in your organization? What are you beta testing? What is it that you're most excited about? You should be able to name one, because you always want to take your best idea, discuss it with the team, and then take a section of your business and pilot it. And if it's going well, then roll it out, and roll it out a little bit further and further. You don't have to go from the pilot phase to a full rollout all at once. You can do it little by little, where each department maybe takes it on or something like that. And then you're getting more feedback. You continually meet. That's why I said that theoretically you could argue that any project is in pilot mode, because you should be doing this with all your ideas. You should be getting feedback, but that's not how many of us operate. And I think that's unfortunate. So many of you are doing the daily grind, if you'll forgive the expression. You're going day in, day out with what you know works, and you're sort of being reactive. and you're not innovating. You have to innovate. You have to add more value to the market. That's how wealth is created. That's how you're going to get a leg up on the competition. And it starts maybe for you by understanding, okay, well, this is a pilot project. Therefore, my primary thing is I want to educate myself. And there's just something that will occur mentally for you and culturally with your organization where you'll probably be willing to implement ideas and get more out of them. And then try to do this in perpetuity, right? Try to do this and make it part of your ongoing culture. That's where I want to leave it with you today, but I really want to hear back from you. So leave some comments and let me know if you'd like me to elaborate. Do you want to talk more about project management? Are there specific roadblocks that you run into? Are there specific HR issues? What kind of symptoms are manifesting in your organization that are preventing you from having successful projects? And how do you define success? Not sex, success. So leave a comment that we can all learn from. Perpetual refinement.